So let me ask you something. How well do you know the story of Eve in the Garden of Eden? You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Eve takes a bite of the forbidden fruit, the serpent plays the role of a cunning tempter, and humanity faces the consequences. But what if I told you there's way more to this story than meets the eye? What if the serpent wasn't just a crafty snake, but something far more sinister? What if the forbidden fruit wasn't even fruit at all? Today we're peeling back the layers of one of the Bible's most well-known stories to uncover theories that will make you question everything. Was the serpent in the Garden of Eden actually Lucifer? Did he just tempt Eve? Or was there something far more intimate at play? And how does this connect to Cain, the mysterious firstborn of Eve? Buckle up, because this is going to get wild, controversial, and downright fascinating. Who was the serpent? Let's start by examining the serpent's role in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3:1 introduces the serpent as more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. At first glance, it seems like the story is merely describing a snake. But when we look closer at the Hebrew term aram, meaning cunning or crafty, we see that the word carries connotations of intelligence and subtlety that are almost human, or perhaps even divine. This description has puzzled scholars for centuries. After all, why would a simple snake possess qualities typically associated with higher beings? This has led many to propose that the serpent wasn't just an animal, but a physical manifestation of a celestial entity. Early Christian interpretations, especially influenced by works like the Book of Revelation, explicitly identify the serpent as Satan or Lucifer. Revelation 12:9 refers to that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. This connection suggests the serpent was no ordinary creature but a fallen angel in disguise, with a cunning agenda. But why would Lucifer choose to manifest as a serpent? In many ancient cultures, snakes were symbols of wisdom, duality, and transformation. In Mesopotamian and Egyptian mythology, serpents often represented both chaos and divine knowledge. By taking this form, Lucifer may have been signaling his intent to present himself not as an enemy, but as a guide offering enlightenment, albeit at a cost. Now here's where things take a darker turn. Some apocryphal texts, including the Book of Enoch and other non-canonical writings, delve into the idea of fallen angels interacting directly with humanity. These celestial beings, often referred to as the Watchers, are said to have descended to Earth, taking human forms and engaging in forbidden relationships with mankind. The Book of Enoch describes how these angels taught humanity secret knowledge, such as the arts of war, astrology, and alchemy, which eventually led to humanity's corruption. If we consider the serpent in Genesis within this framework, it's possible that the serpent's goal wasn't merely to tempt Eve into breaking a rule. Instead, the interaction between Eve and the serpent could represent something far more intimate, a meeting of minds and perhaps even physical seduction. This interpretation casts the serpent not just as a tempter, but as a corrupter who sought to entwine his essence with humanity itself. The forbidden fruit, a deeper meaning. Now let's examine the infamous forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The Bible is notably vague about the specifics of this fruit. It's often depicted as an apple in Western art and tradition, but nowhere in the text does it specify what kind of fruit it was. This ambiguity has opened the door to countless interpretations. In ancient Jewish and Christian mysticism, the act of eating is frequently used as a metaphor for gaining knowledge or experiencing a transformative event. The Hebrew word for knowledge in Genesis 2:17, da'at, can imply both intellectual and experiential understanding. This dual meaning has led some scholars and mystics to propose that the fruit wasn't a literal piece of produce, but a symbol for something much deeper, possibly an act that introduced Eve to a forbidden level of understanding. Gnostic texts, such as the Gospel of Philip, reinterpret many biblical stories as allegories for spiritual or carnal truths. In these writings, the concept of knowledge often carries an intimate, even sexual connotation. The Gospel of Philip states, "Knowledge is a form of union." Could it be that the forbidden fruit represents not just disobedience, but a forbidden union between Eve and the serpent? This theory aligns with the idea that the serpent wasn't merely offering Eve information, but was initiating her into something transformative. By eating the fruit, Eve wasn't just gaining intellectual knowledge. She was partaking in an experience that forever changed her relationship with the divine and the world around her. One of the most intriguing aspects of this interpretation is how it redefines the consequences of Eve's actions. In the traditional narrative, eating the fruit led to the fall of humanity, introducing sin, suffering, and death into the world. But if the fruit symbolizes a forbidden union, then the fall wasn't just a spiritual event, it was also biological. Humanity became entwined with the essence of the serpent, creating a lineage marked by duality and conflict. This idea is further supported by the text of Genesis 3:7, which states that after eating the fruit, the eyes of both Adam and Eve were opened, and they knew that they were naked. The sudden awareness of their nakedness suggests a loss of innocence tied to a new understanding of their physicality and its implications. In this light, the act of eating the fruit could symbolize Eve's initiation into a deeper, more carnal knowledge that was never intended for her to possess. The connection between the fruit and transformation. The metaphorical nature of the fruit becomes even more compelling when we consider how similar myths appear in other ancient traditions. In Greek mythology, for example, the story of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods mirrors the serpent's role in providing forbidden knowledge to humanity. In both cases, the act of imparting knowledge is seen as a rebellious challenge to divine authority. In Hinduism, the concept of Maya, illusion, and avidya, ignorance, suggests that true knowledge can either liberate or entangle the soul, depending on how it's obtained. The serpent in Genesis, much like figures in other religious traditions, serves as both a revealer of truth and a corrupter of innocence. If we view the fruit as a symbol of transformation, then the serpent's offer to Eve wasn't just an act of temptation. It was an invitation to transcend her current state of being. However, this transcendence came with a cost. By gaining the knowledge of good and evil, humanity also inherited the burden of moral responsibility, guilt, and separation from God. This interpretation challenges the traditional view of the fall as a purely negative event. Instead, it frames the story as a complex interplay of rebellion, enlightenment, and consequence. The serpent's role becomes more ambiguous, neither entirely evil nor entirely good, but a catalyst for humanity's evolution. The serpent's seed. Was Cain Lucifer's son? Here's where things get really wild. Genesis 3:15 is a critical verse in this story. God says to the serpent, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed." Most of us have been taught to interpret this metaphorically, as a prophecy about the struggle between good and evil. But what if it's not just a metaphor? What if the serpent's seed was a literal bloodline? Some ancient interpretations suggest that Lucifer, in his role as the serpent, fathered a child with Eve. That child, according to this theory, was Cain. Cain's story in Genesis is filled with tragedy and mystery. He's the firstborn of Eve and the one who kills his brother Abel. But some apocryphal texts and alternative theories argue that Cain's violent nature wasn't just a result of human frailty. It was the manifestation of his true nature, inherited from Lucifer himself. This concept of a dual bloodline appears in many ancient traditions. Cain's descendants, marked by rebellion and sin, are often contrasted with the descendants of Seth, Adam, and Eve's third son, who are seen as the righteous lineage. If Cain was indeed the seed of the serpent, it would explain this stark dichotomy. The role of Gnostic texts. Let's dig into the Gnostic perspective. The Gospel of Philip and other Gnostic writings often reinterpret biblical stories to reveal hidden, esoteric meanings. For them, the serpent wasn't just a villain, It was a bringer of forbidden knowledge, a kind of tragic anti-hero. One Gnostic text, the Apocryphon of John, reimagines Eve's encounter with the serpent as a transformative experience. It suggests that the serpent gave Eve a spirit of life, awakening her to knowledge that was both divine and dangerous. In this interpretation, the fall of humanity wasn't just about breaking a rule, it was about crossing a boundary between the divine and the demonic. This perspective ties directly into the idea of the serpent's seed. If Eve's interaction with the serpent was both physical and spiritual, then the offspring of that union, Cain, would embody this duality. Enter Lilith, the first rebel. Now let's add another layer to this story, Lilith. According to Jewish mysticism, Lilith was Adam's first wife, created before Eve. She's not mentioned in the Bible, but she appears in ancient texts like the alphabet of Ben Sira. Lilith is portrayed as a rebellious figure who refused to submit to Adam's authority and left the Garden of Eden. But here's where it gets interesting. Some interpretations suggest that Lilith became the consort of Lucifer. The Zohar, a foundational text of Jewish mysticism, describes how Lilith and Lucifer, or Samael in some versions, joined forces to create a host of demonic offspring. In some theories, Lilith returns to the Garden of Eden in the guise of the serpent. If true, this would mean that Eve's seduction wasn't just a one-time event. It was part of a larger rebellion orchestrated by Lilith and Lucifer to corrupt humanity. Why does this matter? You might be wondering, why should we care about these interpretations? Because if they hold any truth, they radically change our understanding of the origins of evil. The traditional view sees the fall of humanity as a spiritual event, but these theories suggest it was also biological, a clash of bloodlines that set the stage for generations of conflict. Cain, as the seed of the serpent, represents a lineage marked by rebellion and separation from God. This duality between Cain's line and Seth's line mirrors the ongoing struggle between light and darkness, good and evil. These theories also challenge us to think more deeply about the Bible's symbolism. What if the stories we've been taught are just the surface layer, hiding deeper truths about humanity's origins and our ongoing battle between divine and demonic forces? And there you have it. The serpent in the Garden of Eden may have been far more than just a snake. From the possibility of a forbidden union with Eve to the emergence of a bloodline tied to rebellion, these theories invite us to question everything we thought we knew about one of the Bible's most famous stories. So, what do you think? Was the serpent just a clever tempter, or was it Lucifer himself, rewriting the fate of humanity with a single act? Is Cain truly the seed of the serpent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you found this fascinating, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the mysteries of history, religion, and the unknown. After all, the more we question, the closer we get to the truth. See you next time.